All right, YouTube, welcome back. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but it's a rainy day outside, so we are inside on my work table. And as you can see, I've kind of laid out everything. Controlled chaos as far as the dashboard wiring goes, but wanted to go through a little bit of what I'm doing here. You can see here's a little piece of wiring harness that I have put together with the new wire. Wire that I got here from a place called wirebarn.com. Best pricing I found on automotive grade wiring, and I got the thin, not the extra thin sheathing, high temp sheathing on the wire, and they have assortment packs. I got an 11 color pack. It comes 11 colors, 25 feet each. It's a real good deal. It's about 39 bucks plus shipping, and if you need more colors than that, that's what the Sharpies are for here. Just take a piece of wire, hold it between your fingers against the end of the Sharpie, draw it through, and there you go. Now you have a white wire with a red stripe or black stripe or blue stripe, or you can do the same thing with the yellow, orange, any of the lighter colors. Of course, even gray, you could put black stripe on, and that way you can have as many wire colors as you need to be able to trace and to rebuild a wiring harness like this. So that's the wire. Ends. I went through this wiring harness and I started counting the number of little spade connectors. You can see these things are all like almost crispy. They're not too bad. Some of the ones in the engine compartment were, but they're just nasty. The ends were nasty. The connections, I couldn't imagine them making really good connection, and I could try to go through and clean them up, but obviously you're not going to be able to clean up the females. So I started counting them up, and on the wiring harness itself, and then I started looking at these connectors going, oh, okay, well, let's see, we've got little females, big females, same thing here, those are the big males. There's two different sizes they're using. I think it's 6mm and 3mm, if I'm not mistaken. It's very close to it. At any rate, started doing a lot of research online, found a place called Vintage Connections. Vintage Connections sells the correct spade connectors and bullet connectors and all that for these type of connectors that we have. The vintage connections that they use on the wiring harnesses on early motorcycles, late 60s, early 70s, JDM, Japanese domestic market vehicles, Toyota, Honda, and of course Nissan or Datsun. So anyway, I got those from there. Ordered them up. Wasn't too expensive. You can see the ends here. They come out beautiful. There's a huge difference between this and this, I think, and I think it's a lot better. It's going to be a lot better. I just want to make the whole wiring harness new. I've been labeling everything. Obviously, this is for the clock, and put a bullet connector on there. For the lighting system, I did the same thing. I clipped all the lights out after I measured. Actually, this is the part of the wiring harness that I did for the lights, and that has been redone. You can see they just had wrapped electrical tape around their spliced connections, which were crimped connections. They weren't even really that good. And what I did, back over here, completely reconditioned the rheostat, which controls the brightness of the lights on the dashboard, and completely redid the wiring itself. And of course I would strip a little area, pull that strip back with the single wire bare, splice in the wire that I needed to go where I needed it to go, and then heat shrink. So no more globs of electrical tape, high temp heat shrink. It'll be fine. And that's all going to be housed inside of the plastic tubing that I have over here to keep it all nice and clean. I've got a couple different sizes of that, so no more mess and chaos. It'll all be in here. Some of the tools I'm using in order to get this done, aside from the Sharpies for labeling your wire, I've got a couple different sizes of heat shrink here, and I have the crimping tool, which I also got from Vintage Connections. Highly recommend this place. Wasn't very expensive and is designed precisely for these connectors. So it gives you a lot of leverage and gives you a perfect crimp. You can see on this one here. It's a factory type crimp. It's exactly what you get. I mean, I suppose you could try to do this stuff with needle nose pliers. I wouldn't recommend it. I've done that before for various hobbies and things when I needed to put ends on wire, and nothing works as well as something like this to get a nice factory crimp end. I also got these tools from Vintage Connections, and these are hardened steel little blades that actually, with a handle on it, go into these connectors and allow you to remove the male and female pins from the connectors without damaging them. And that also allows you to insert the brand new correct ones. So anyway, to get these out, just insert the new ones. They should click in. It should be fine. If you break one of these in your endeavor, if that's what you're doing, Vintage Connections sells these. I don't know that they match with these, but they are very, very close. And I assume you would get a pair anyway. You'd want a male and a female, or male and female, and from Vintage Connections. Let's see, what else do I have going on here? Of course, your wire stripper, you're going to need one of those to be able to strip the ends of your wire. I got the pair of scissors and some more masking tape to be able to label things. Doesn't hurt to have a screwdriver set. Actually, it's a Phillips flathead, hex key, or Allen wrench, whatever you want to call that, and star drive. This thing was really cheap. I think I picked it up at Fry's Electronics for like 10 or 12 bucks. And for taking the instruments apart, working on them, doing that kind of stuff, it's invaluable. It's always best to have the correct size bit when you're trying to do a screw. That way you don't strip it and mess it up at all. And then you have your regular right angle wire cutters. I love these things. They give you a nice clean cut on the wire. And when you're cutting a lot of wire, it's a handy thing to have. Snips right through it very easily. And I got the multimeter here. I believe I picked this multimeter up at, God, could have even been the 99-cent store. But a very handy thing. Mainly all I'm using it for is tone, to be able to trace the wires. Let's see. When you want to find out where does this wire go, you can kind of trace it through and figure out by the color. But you want to make sure, so you'd stick one of these probes inside the connector there, and then you'd start touching the other connectors where you think it goes, and when you find the right one, it'll give you a tone, and that way you know you found where it's supposed to be. Anyway, that's kind of how I'm doing it. Methodically going through, unwrapping the tape, following each wire through, measure from this connector through the wiring harness to whatever connector it may go to, and measuring off the correct amount of wire that's the closest color that I can find to what's on here, cutting it, stripping it, crimping the ends on. That's it. Methodically, one wire after the other, and keeping them labeled as I showed you here. Right here, there's a 3 for the fuse block. I went through the fuse block itself here, and I had numbered everything 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each side has 1 through 6, and that way I know where the correct connector is supposed to go. Obviously this one goes to the clock, and this one goes to one of these connectors over here. Anyway, I'll figure that out. I marked it off. I'm sure it's this blue with a white stripe. I'm pretty sure that's the one where this connector goes. Anyway, one wire at a time, methodically going through it. Once you have all the wires laid out with the correct ends on them, transfer the blocks, maybe clean them up. I will clean these up, as a matter of fact. Being careful not to remove the numbers that I have on here. You can see a 1 right there and a 2 right there and a 3 right there. And these correspond to the blocks that are in the engine compartment. When I unplugged them, I labeled, 2 for 2, 1 for 1, 3 for 3. So I will know exactly where those are supposed to go when I go to put it back together again. So that's it. I'll be going through and cleaning up the chrome bezel on the instrument here. I believe all the instruments are still working correctly, but just testing out all the individual bits and pieces and light bulbs and things like that, making sure it all works, putting the ends on, measuring the wires, and hopefully in no time at all I shall have a brand new, fresh, clean wiring harness with all new wire, all new connectors, ready to go for the Datsun Roadster, and we will get this back in the car. Once that's done, hopefully I'll be getting it started up and having a driving project so I can continue working on it while it's drivable. Anyway, until next time, YouTube, take care.